Hello, I am René Sedmek and this is the construction site of the Cannex experiment. Let me show you what we are doing here and why it is interesting.
The name Cannex stands for Casimir and Non-Newtonian force experiment. The aim of this project is to measure two different types of interactions. The first one is the so-called Casimir force. This quantum mechanical interaction is related to the van der Waals force and develops between any two objects at sub-micrometer separations. It is caused by an infinite energy background filling our universe, the vacuum energy. We cannot perceive vacuum energy directly because all physical processes appear relative to it. The situation becomes more interesting if two objects are placed close together. Then some of this energy is squeezed out of the space in between them, thereby creating an underpressure. This is the Casimir force. In our everyday life, the Casimir force normally is not relevant, because most surfaces are simply too rough to come close enough. However, there are indeed situations where the effect is important. Geckos have the ability to stick to almost any surface. They do this by perfectly adapting the sole of their feet to the underground, thereby triggering the Casimir force. In modern technology, the effect poses a problem in something almost everybody uses: microelectromechanical accelerometers in mobile phones, which measure movement and orientation. If not designed properly, the small structures in these devices may stick together due to the Casimir force, thereby causing malfunctions.
The Casimir force increases quickly at short separations. Therefore, if we want to keep up the current trend in nanotechnology for miniaturization, it will become more and more important to properly understand and possibly even to control the Casimir force.
So that's all very interesting, but what can we actually use this research for? In fact, a better understanding of the Casimir force could possibly lead to a breakthrough in nanomechanics, which then eventually paves the way for a wealth of new applications. Today, despite a long history of experimental successes in the field of Casimir physics, there are still open questions. In order to answer these, we need measurements of much higher sensitivity than available to date. This was the motivation to develop a completely new type of setup, which shall allow us to detect forces between perfectly parallel plates more accurately than ever before.
The extremely high sensitivity and unique isolation of our setup will allow us not only to measure the Casimir force very precisely, but also will help us to find new limits on non-Newtonian forces.
Non-Newtonian forces are deviations from the usual laws of gravity set by Newton and Einstein. If they exist, these deviations are extremely small. So the question is, why are they important? Non-Newtonian forces are important because they are connected with one of the biggest mysteries of our time. Everything we know and see in our universe accounts for only 5% of its total mass. Further 27% are dark matter and 68% are a completely unknown form of so-called dark energy, which is necessary to explain the observed expansion of the universe. Several theories have been developed which aim to describe dark energy. One of them is the so-called chameleon model, which earns its name because the predicted interaction adapts to the local energy density.
If the chameleon force exists, and if it is strong enough, we can measure it as a deviation between the detected force and the one predicted by standard theory.
Cannex can possibly give answers to important questions in nanotechnology as well as fundamental physics. However, we are not there yet. Our system is currently being built up and subsystems for detection and isolations are being tested. In order to reach the final sensitivity and to measure forces at the targeted level, further small modifications will be necessary.
In order to perform this last step, we need your help. With your support, we can transform Cannex from a test setup to a fully functional experiment which is able to give valuable data. This is your chance to be part of developments in fundamental science. Help us to find the chameleon and to increase the knowledge in Casimir physics. Support Cannex.